This is the story of how the loudest mouth in hockey survived every scandal he started until one podcast ended everything. Jeremy Roenick didn't talk his way into trouble. He talked his way into a career. 50-goal seasons.
Now lets it go, and a save by Malarchuk. Rebound, Roenick gets him down.
9 All-Star games. A Hall of Fame plaque. For 30 years, saying too much was the whole point.
You can all kiss my...
Until it wasn't. Before he was the loudest voice in any room, he was the new kid in every one. His father worked as a district coordinator for Mobil Oil, and the job kept the family on the move. Connecticut, Virginia, back to Massachusetts. Every few years, a new town, a new school, a new locker room. Every few years, the same problem. Earn your spot or sit on the bench. Hockey was the only thing that traveled with him. Everything else could be packed into a box. By his teenage years, he landed at Thayer Academy in Braintree, Massachusetts, a prep school south of Boston with a serious hockey program. He was barely 158 pounds. His own agent told him not to take his shirt off in public before the draft. Scouts would see how skinny he was and pass. But he could play. And he could talk. The night before the 1988 NHL draft in Montreal, an 18-year-old Roenick walked into a restaurant bathroom and found himself standing at a urinal next to Mike Keenan, the brand new head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, the man who would decide his future.
Standing next to Mike Keenan at a urinal, he oddly asked me, "You have any balls, kid?"
Roenick, in a situation most 18-year-olds would describe as deeply uncomfortable, answered without flinching,
"Enough to play for you."
Years later, telling that story at his Hall of Fame induction, Roenick added the punchline himself.
Thank goodness he didn't look over the divider. I might not have been their first pick that year.
The next day, Chicago took him 8th overall. That was the template. In hockey, his mouth was an asset. The bigger the personality, the more room he got to use it. And use it, he did. By his third full season, he was putting up 53 goals and 103 points. He led Chicago to the 1992 Stanley Cup Final. Then came back-to-back 107-point seasons. 9 All-Star appearances over his career. Interviews, beat writers built entire columns around. He wasn't just one of the best American-born players alive. He was the most quotable one. And for a while, nothing he said could hurt him. Then came the first warning. May 1996, Western Conference semifinals, Game 4. Chicago is playing the Colorado Avalanche, and the series turns on a play in triple overtime. A missed call that Roenick is sure should have been a penalty shot. Colorado wins the game. Afterward, Patrick Waugh, the Avalanche goaltender, tells reporters he would have stopped the shot anyway.
I think I had him beat. I think he did. The reason why he kind of slowed down, he knew I was going. He knew I was ready for his forehand shot, and I don't think he would have beat me anyway.
Roenick can't let it go. He walks up to the media and says,
"I like Patrick's quote that he would have stopped me. I just want to know where he was in Game 3. Probably getting his jock out of the stands out of the Raptors United Center, man."
It's a decent line. It would have been a great one if Patrick Waugh hadn't been Patrick Waugh. Waugh's response the next day became one of the most famous comebacks in hockey history.
Can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
Colorado won the series. They won the Stanley Cup. Roenick lost the exchange so badly that the quote followed him for the rest of his career. But it made him more famous, not less. The loss was the content. His mouth had cost him nothing except a headline that outlived the goal. Warning number 1, he didn't hear it. Fast forward to June 2005. The NHL had just canceled an entire season over a lockout. Fans are furious. At the owners, at the players, at everyone. The league is desperately trying to win them back. And Roenick is at the Mario Lemieux Celebrity Invitational, a charity golf tournament in Presto, Pennsylvania, when a reporter asks him about fans who think players are spoiled. He answers,
And everybody out there who calls us spoiled because we play a game, they can all kiss my They can all kiss my
The quote goes everywhere. Endorsements dry up. His own union distances itself. He later tells ESPN he was taken out of context. The tape is unambiguous. Warning number 2. Louder. He didn't hear that one either. A few months later, the third warning came. And this one didn't come with a headline. It came with silence. February 2006. USA Hockey announces its roster for the Turin Winter Olympics. Roenick, who had won silver in Salt Lake City 4 years earlier, is not on it. Left off completely. He responds the way he has responded to everything his entire life, by going to the media and accusing USA Hockey of blackballing him. The Federation says nothing. No denial, no comments, no pushback. The silence is louder than anything he said. He would later quietly apologize to Chris Drury, the player chosen over him. A door had closed and nobody felt the need to explain why. 3 warnings, 3 times the game let him walk. But the game was about to stop showing up to bail him out. On August 3rd, the Philadelphia Flyers signed Peter Forsberg to a 2-year, $11.5 million contract. The signing put them over the cap. Someone had to go. 24 hours later, they sent Roenick and a 3rd-round pick to the LA Kings for future considerations. He was 35 years old. The season in Los Angeles was the worst of his career. 22 points in 58 games, 9 goals. The Kings didn't re-sign him. He went back to Phoenix for 2006-07, a team now coached by Wayne Gretzky. Healthy scratches. A walkout from the arena in Vancouver after being benched. 28 points in 70 games. When the season ended and free agency opened on July 1st, no team called. On July 4th, 2007, Roenick texted a reporter at the Philadelphia Inquirer 6 words. "I'm retiring. Is that still news?" That was it. No press conference, no statements, no farewell. A text message on Independence Day. For 17 years, nobody knew what was actually happening behind that text. Roenick finally told the full story at his Hall of Fame induction in 2024.
Summer of 2007, my career came to a standstill. 4 goals shy of 500, and no calls came on January 1st. No calls came on August 1st. Depression and heavy drinking had set in. I was in Idaho with my family, and my angel called.
The angel was Doug Wilson, Roenick's first NHL roommate in Chicago and now the general manager of the San Jose Sharks. Wilson called him on a golf course in Idaho and asked him to fly out. Roenick got on a plane the next day. Wilson made him an offer on 3 conditions. Roenick retold them word for word at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
1, you have to play for the league minimum. 2, no media unless we ask you to, which was very hard. And number 3, no alcohol. I dumped the beer I had in my hand out and immediately shook his hand.
On September 4th, 2007, Roenick signed a 1-year contract with San Jose for $500,000. Exactly what Wilson had said. 2 months later, on November 10th, San Jose played the Phoenix Coyotes at HP Pavilion. Second period. 6:35 on the clock. Score tied 1-1. Roenick won a faceoff in his own zone, carried the puck up, and dumped it in. A routine clearing attempt nobody in the arena even noticed. The puck caromed off the inboards toward backup goalie Alex Auld. Auld reached for it with his stick. The puck hit the heel of the blade at the wrong angle and rolled into his own net. That was goal number 500. Roenick himself called it a fluke. He kept a piece of plexiglass from behind the net as a memento. A friend had thrown him a rope, and a puck wouldn't stay out. He raised his hands, pointed to the crowd, got mobbed by teammates. He gave the puck to Doug Wilson. He'd just been handed a second life by a man who told him to stop talking. 12 years later, that lesson would be gone. On August 6, 2009, Roenick officially retired. In 2010, NBC Sports hired him as a studio analyst. For the next decade, he was the most quotable man on the network, the same personality that had worked for 20 years in a locker room. But the rules had quietly changed. For 30 years, the locker room had rewarded saying anything. The broadcast booth would punish it. Nobody handed him a new rulebook. On December 19, 2019, Roenick appeared as a guest on Spittin' Chicklets, a hockey podcast owned by Barstool Sports. In a free-flowing conversation about his NBC colleagues, he told a story about a summer vacation he had taken to Portugal with his wife Tracy and NBC studio host Catherine Tappan. The comments were explicit. They were about Tappan. They were aired to millions. Tappan's statement through NBC came out days later. Measured, professional, and in its own way, devastating. While Jeremy and I continue to be good friends, what he said was unacceptable, especially among workplace colleagues. I do not condone his comments. On December 23rd, NBC suspended Roenick indefinitely without pay. On February 12th, 2020, 7 weeks later, they fired him. Roenick posted a video on Twitter that same day with the caption, "What a joke." In the video, he said,
"I'm very disappointed and angry today. I will not be returning to NBC."
Then he sued. On July 17th, 2020, Roenick filed suit in the New York Supreme Court. The claim was anti-straight discrimination. He pointed to a scripted NBC skit where gay figure skating commentator Johnny Weir and his co-host Tara Lipinski had used the term camel toe and joked about an office romance. Neither had been disciplined. He also claimed his public support for Donald Trump had contributed to the firing. In June 2021, federal judge John Cronin dismissed the discrimination claims. His ruling, in one devastating paragraph, translated the new rules of the media world into plain English. Lipinski and Weir participated in a skit for NBC that included jokes about the term camel toe and an office romance between besties. Roenick, on the other hand, used his free time outside his role at NBC to tell the hosts of a Barstool Sports podcast that he jokingly implied he had slept simultaneously with his NBC co-worker Tappan and his wife on multiple occasions. Simply put, neither Lipinski nor Weir joked about having sex with a co-worker. Roenick did. NBC's contract had a morals clause. That was all it took. 513 goals, 1,216 points, 9 All-Star appearances, an Olympic silver medal. By any statistical measure, Jeremy Roenick was a Hall of Famer the day he became eligible in 2012. The call didn't come that year, or the next, or the one after that. For 12 years, the phone stayed quiet. In June 2022, on the Zach Gelb Show, Roenick finally said what he thought was happening.
I guess I'm just not their type of person. I think my stats and my career speak for themselves, but obviously I'm not a favorite of them personality-wise.
It was the closest he'd ever come to naming the pattern himself. On June 25th, 2024, 15 years after his last NHL game, the call finally came. Roenick was sitting in a Starbucks drive-thru when his phone rang with a 416 area code. Toronto. He froze. He couldn't hand over his money. He couldn't get his coffee. He cried in front of the barista. His father, Walter, who had never missed one of his games, had died in 2021, 3 years too early to see it. On November 11th, 2024, in Toronto, Roenick walked onto the stage at the Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony. He was the last speaker of the night, fitting for a man who had always insisted on having the last word. Chris Chelios handed him the plaque. Roenick opened.
That's my hero, Captain America, Chris Chelios.
Then he paused. Then he paused again. And for 15 minutes, he did something nobody who had ever watched him hold a microphone would have predicted. He cried talking about Doug Wilson.
Thank you, Doug Wilson, for being a great friend, but more important, for being a friend when I needed it the most. I would not be up here, and I don't mean up here, if it wasn't for you. You truly saved my life.
He thanked the fans who had booed him.
I loved having you yell at me and boo me. It was the greatest compliment you can ever have. See, because without the fan, we would just be a local hockey league in a local rink with a designated beer guy. Thank you, fans, for coming out and supporting the best game in the world.
The only direct apology in the entire speech was to the Wirtz family for a contract dispute from 1996.
I would like to take this opportunity to apologize to the Wirtz family, especially Bill Wirtz. I wish I didn't let my ego get in the way of our contract talks, and you deserved more respect than I gave you. I hope you forgive me.
The podcast, Catherine Tappan, the firing, none of it was named. Not once. What he said instead was oblique.
Earlier this year, I had a light bulb moment. Some say a higher power moment. I realized that I'm not special because I played in the National Hockey League. What makes one special is how one chooses to live their life. A life of honesty, loyalty, and integrity. With all we have lots of decisions in life. And there are consequences to every decision, some good, some bad.
The most quotable man in hockey, at the one moment when saying the thing directly would have closed the circle, talked around it. The room gave him a standing ovation anyway. Thanks for being part of Skates and Scars. Roenick spent a lifetime saying everything and couldn't say the one thing that mattered. Tap super thanks to help us keep digging into stories like this. Tell us in the comments, was the silence at the end the real confession? And if you're new here, smash that subscribe button before you go.